Hi, my name is Rob Porter. I'm an e-learning developer and an instructor for both in-classroom and online events. And I'm here to share some of my experiences and perspectives of the flipped classroom learning model. Now, the term flipped classroom is typically used to describe a class structure that uses pre-recorded materials that are followed by in-class exercises. In courses I've facilitated, we've created pre-recorded lectures that are then pared down into shorter learning objects. They're followed by the in-person classroom activity, which are intended to explore the topic deeper and also help increase the students' understanding and retention of the topic. Now, starting with the pre-recorded lectures, the students do have the ability to rewind and rewatch any of the prepared instruction to help clarify any sort of sticking points. They can do this on their own time. It's typically followed up by an informal quiz just to help the students feel comfortable before they enter that classroom environment. The next step is for us to bring the students into an environment where they can show what they've learned and expand on the areas that they're still struggling with. So rather than a class, it becomes a workshop, enabling the students to help solidify their understandings of their recently learned skills. As an instructor, we might lead in class discussions or turn the classroom into a production studio where the students can create and collaborate, put into practice what they've learned from their lectures that they viewed earlier online. It's interesting because there becomes this dynamic shift in perspective from my role as the instructor more towards an on-site expert. My advice for instructors who are interested in using a flipped classroom model is to first start small. Identify a single topic, a lesson, a short chapter within your current curriculum. Look for curriculum that follows a specific format, which is more of lecture, then question, then lecture, then question. If you find a topic that utilizes that format, these, from my experience, are the easiest to convert. Next, find a mentor to coach you as you prepare for your class to be flipped. Your next step after that is then to prepare your self-paced materials. If you want to create a video but you're not comfortable in front of a camera, try simply recording one of your classroom lectures by placing a camera in the back of the room. Afterwards, you can edit down into more concise lessons. Then plan your classroom experience. Identify what are the key topics that you want the students to expand on, to demonstrate, or even role play. Make sure you leave enough time for question and answer. And finally, plan the next step for your students' learning experience. Flipped classrooms work great for many topics, but not all. So be sure to do your research, review your own materials, and then give it a try.
A flipped classroom is when the instructor provides the theory or the content of the material to be used as homework rather than the actual lab work or the practicing of the material. So the idea is, think of your average math class or biology class. As a student, you would be at home. Your homework would be watching a video lecture maybe of your professor, or it could be YouTube videos, case studies, interesting readings, that sort of thing. And you would learn about the content and the theory of it at home. And then when you show up to the class, rather than wasting your valuable time with your professor learning about the content, you actually dig right in and you're working on the practice of it. So actually doing the experiments or trying the math problems so that when you run into difficulties or have any trouble, you can get help from your instructor right then immediately. The biggest benefit as a student for a flipped classroom for me is that I get to keep the lectures or the learning materials at home all the time. So when I'm going to study for tests or projects and I have a question or I can't remember what my professor said, I have it on video. I know exactly what they said. I can watch it as many times as I want. I also really appreciate that my valuable time with my instructor is spent actually working on problems and actually digging into the content. So when theoretical questions come up or when issues arise or when I'm not sure how to proceed, they're right there in the classroom ready to help me rather than me sitting at home reading from a book and getting confused and frustrated with nobody to help me out. It's also extremely valuable to have homework that feels relevant. A lot of times as a student, you feel that the homework you get is busy work. You're just doing math problems or reading a textbook that you may or may not use in your tests or whatever projects your professor might give you. But rather than doing what feels like busy work, you're actually learning the content that you know you're going to be practicing in that classroom the next time you're there.